Hey, I'm Rich. I use the he, him pronouns, and you're watching my YouTube channel where I play amazing tabletop role playing games with friends. This is the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, so named because we span two different continents and a giant ocean between us. And on Sundays, we get together to play different tabletop RPGs together. We are beginning a short foray into Pandora Total Destruction, which is from Broken Ruler Games. It is a game of overpowered supers, and we're nesting it within the custom setting for our Power Beyond Doubt series. And it's set, as you can tell, because I have my Atlantis. It is a DC Atlantis, but Atlantis background. It amuses me. It tickles me. Set in a biodome in Atlantis, but it's going to be humans who are likely the majority of our PCs. We're working out character creations. This will be pretty loose. This is the first time for all of us to play PTD, as I will call it, to save myself a bunch of syllables. I've created a character keeper aping the character sheet, and I moved in some pertinent parts of the rules from the book. Where we're at right now is everyone has had some chance to look over the character keeper and think about a core concept and a major power. So the way PTD works is you create a super powered character, but you start with a D12, the highest possible die. There's a die step system in this. You start with a D12 of overpower, and you don't have refined control of your power. So really, it's just like one core concept that you create. This is the main part of my power. In Power Beyond Doubt lexicon, it would be someone who's focused, like they have one particular thing that they do. And also another part of PTD is that your super powered character doesn't have like a crappy little power, like I can jump 3 feet farther than anybody else. No, it's Titanic stuff. It's Akira level stuff that you could do. You're all super dangerous, and that is one of the reasons that you are here at the academy, which is located miles below the surface of the ocean near Atlantis. So that's the setup. Us being need to step away from the screen. That's okay. We were doing intros, and I believe, Sabine says she can hear. So Alex, you were the first one to throw up is not the right turn of phrase, to toss up an idea. So tell us about the character concept, core power ideas that you have.
Well, the character I vomited up is Karen Kowalski. Her kind of super name is
Wait, you have
either
Kolakowski. Do you want to go with Kowalski?
Kowalski. That's Kowalski is what I meant. Yeah, so you can change. You can do a spell check for me. Thank you. Her super's name is either Refuse or Refuse. You choose how you want to pronounce it.
I love that. I love that it's like, even you don't even know what your super name is. But it looks great on paper.
Yeah. And her core power, I guess, is some sort of Magneto level magnetism or electromagnetism. I'm not sure if we're saying this is telekinesis based or literally power over, just metal. But that's what we come up with as we go.
I was actually trying to find that picture that I'd shared. There she is. Oh, I love this picture. Also, if we go with this picture being the picture of your character, that means that we are acknowledging the teenage gerbil uprising exists in this game as well, and I'm a very big fan of this. I hope that that's what you're saying.
It exists in all superhero games.
In all superhero games, TGU forever. TGU is a high school band that existed in a Masks game that we played, and they were wonderful. I loved the TGU.
By the way, her mohawk thing is always up. She doesn't need to style it. Static electricity just does the work.
That's great. That is great.
So you may also get a mohawk if you stand too close to it.
Oh, that's cool. Excellent. Thank you very much. And Sabine, I think you were the second person to toss up an idea that you had for like a power set, and even came with some theming.
Well, I thought since we're underwater, what would be really not very safe down there, and I thought maybe something like wind, hurricane powers, and that's when Dorothy came to be, who's maybe from Kansas and can control wind, hurricanes, weather stuff. I think something like that.
So let me check in just to make sure.
Mhm.
You're thinking that the Wizard of Oz exists in this world, right?
Mhm.
Like you, okay,
Yeah.
good.
She was named for the character in the Wizard of Oz, and has some echoes with her power to the whole thing. But yeah, the Wizard of Oz exists. I imagine if somebody says no, I don't want that, then
You
it doesn't.
mean like the book series? We're
Yeah,
not talking about
yeah.
the dimensional space of Oz,
Yeah,
right?
no,
right. Yeah.
I thought about the book series. Yes.
Very cool. Tyler, I have not heard what your concept might be. Do you have one to share? Do you have ideas?
Sure. And that said, I would be totally behind the dimensional space of Oz existing. There wasn't. That wasn't throwing shade at the idea there. I do have a sort of idea. I'm thinking of a reality manipulator who says, I wish, and they happen.
Ooh.
With all of the terrible and awful and wonderful that includes.
Oh my, that is some problems. That's cool. All right. Oh no, I don't feel like anyone has any overlaps. Now, again, we may have to revisit this. Jen is unable to join us this session because she is at Gen Con, the con named for her. And doing work stuff, because it's not just gaming for Jen, it's a job. But that's okay. We'll make space, and she's also super duper creative. So I have every faith that she'll be a-okay working around our ideas. Okay, well, the next thing that we do after this point, once we have that core power, maybe just come up with some pithy way to describe that core power and stick it on row 3 of our little character keeper. And then we talk a little bit more about go to our Chargen thing. We've got super's power. Why would it be dangerous in the wrong hands? I think that's pretty self-explanatory for everybody. And what terrible thing? There are 5 questions to answer. Terrible thing is your character done because of their power? Again, that is establishes a negative event or overall history between your super and their power. Does not mean that you willfully did a terrible thing. It just means that what terrible thing happened as a result of your power. Sorry, my collar, sir. Collar, stupid collar. It's annoying me. I was wearing a different shirt until like a minute before we joined the call, and then I joined the call, and the green screen was like, "Nope, you look like a floating head." So I put on a work shirt that was nearby because I did not want to be max headroom. Which, by the way, friends, coming back. It's coming back. All things are coming back. Everything's going to come back.
I love that actor.
I love Matt Frewer. I think he's delightful.
I do too.
But also, not everything has to come back.
Sure.
But that's it. One of the things. Cool. So we've got some questions to answer. Terrible thing, character done because of their power. Who is someone your character looks up to, and how has that person affected their life? That shapes your heroic value. How do you deal with stressful situations and confront them in an unhealthy way? So that helps shape your troublesome value. How has the discovery of this power changed you? That helps to shape a psychological value. And there you go. Actually tells you to create the core power after you answer those questions, but I like that we have a core power to theme off of to start. I think that makes sense for us. Yeah. Then you'll choose a profile. There are 4 to choose from, which means that with 4 players, we can each have one of the profiles. We can overlap. It is a-okay, whatever you feel fits best with your character. Create those values that should follow on from your 5 questions: heroic, troublesome, and psychological value. You assign action dice and then add value points. You start with 3. This will be the point where I just am here to answer questions, because you've got a lot of work to do, friends.
Well, I think my first question would be, the answer would be magnetism, and why it would be dangerous is its strength and inaccuracy just exponentially grows the further out from me I try and affect. So up close, I could be spinning multiple pins around my fingers at high speed, and if I try and do that across a room, suddenly I'm dragging along, so suddenly the chairs are starting to slide with the thing I'm moving if they're in the room, and do it in a street, that's starting to include cars. Do it down, 5 blocks away, buildings are starting to bend with what I'm doing. So any further and I'm, destroying towns.
Nice.
Not to mention all the little things that are flying around along with those big things that are getting affected. So,
like, your friends.
Yeah.
Should we pause recording for a bit while people think? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing mine in. I think I know all mine.
Oh, good.
My answer to 1 is reality manipulation. I make wishes and they come true. It could be horrible in the hands of someone with no morals. I guess as they would make selfish wishes, which I kind of do occasionally, but try not to. But terrible thing have I done because of my power? It's a power that manifested when I was pretty young, and let's see, we don't harm children. I looked at our Lines and Veils, and after I read that novel, I realized that there were a lot of things I needed to figure there. I mean, I was thinking we've reached a point where we, to prove that you've done something awful, you'd have to kick a puppy. But then I realized we have a line against that. I think that probably a stepfather would be the safest thing here, who treated me and my mother badly. One day I wished that he never existed, and he didn't. And I felt horrible about it and tried to bring him back, but I didn't understand the complexity of what a person was, and what came back wasn't really him.
Wow.
Who is someone I look up to, and how has that person affected my life? That's my grandfather, my mother's father, who was a decent, caring man, hard worker, farmer, who taught me that you have, responsibility of you have to work to help not just your family, not just the people you know, but you help the stranger as well. The person who has need is the one who you should be helping. And he instilled in me that sort of, with great power comes great responsibility, mentality. And he was a very direct difference from the stepfather, a clear distinction of what a decent man should be. And as he was passing, I was tempted to wish him to health, but that wasn't what he wanted. That he felt he had lived his life.
Did you offer it to him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But he said he had lived his life, that would be changing what his life was meant to be. Sometimes there are things you should not wish for. Let's see. Next question. How do I deal with stressful situations or confront them in an unhealthy way? I slide into a complete fantasy world where I'm almost comatose in the real world and just living entirely in my dreams.
Oh, man, that sounds fun.
And how has the discovery of the power changed you? This is a role-playing choice that is kind of difficult. And at times I've seen people try to do it, and I'm going to try and do it in a way that's still very front-facing. But I'm quiet, careful. I'm afraid of what I will say. And so it's made someone who's shy, who worries about connections, who only speaks when they really feel like they need to, or when emotion, if emotion gets away with them, then there's that dam bursting, and that's when terrible things can happen. She's constantly afraid terrible things will happen if I'm not careful what I say.
I really love that.
That's
great.
That's a perfect knock-on effect of her power.
Mhm.
I do have worries, but I also know you're an excellent role player. So
the one who doesn't speak, our mute characters are always, I think, problematic. They're very hard to run. She is not mute, but it's making sure that when you speak, you say something impactful. And I'm usually pretty good at getting in a phrase when I want to be impactful. So
it's true.
So is it like, does she have to, basically her power, if she says something, like a statement about the world?
Wish, or I want.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it is the classic rules of wishes.
Yeah.
I wish or I want.
Okay. Why can't people just please leave me alone? Oh dear.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
you just shut up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't trigger it, right? If you just say shut up.
But just saying shut up won't. No.
Okay.
Well, let me ask everyone to help keep me honest in listening for that trigger, because it sounds delightful, but also, it's just so sad. So sad.
It felt like the game. I love the concept that these are way top end powers, someone who is dangerous, almost world shattering. Because when I started looking for influences, I was thinking Moon Dragon, I was thinking Phoenix, Molecule Man, top enders who, in a lot of cases, have things that restrict them, so they can't become the world destroyer. You know, psychological, physical things put on them by others, those sort of things. And so those were my inspiration types. Because that's what the game, it feels like that's the neatness of the game.
Yes, I think that's what makes it really, really interesting.
So I believe that's my questions. I have the core power questions, but I suppose we'll wait on those.
Yeah.
I have answered mine. So my powers is that I can control the weather, monster winds and hurricanes and tornadoes, and rain, and there's the thunder and lightning is more of an afterthought, which is also dangerous, of course. And but that would be dangerous in the wrong hands, because they could say, hey, don't you want to make it rain over there? These poor farmers, they need the rain. But if you disrupt weather patterns, right, then you have rain over there, and then you have hurricanes over there, and a tsunami over there, and why won't it stop raining? So I think that could be pretty dangerous in the wrong hands. Yeah. Terrible thing I've done because of my power. Well, our farm was foreclosed, and we had to leave. And I couldn't bear the thought of leaving with my family, so I kind of lost it. And then the storm came and picked up all the buildings of our farm, and it was a major hurricane. So it wasn't like the storm picked up this one building, it just blew everything off. And maybe one of the houses dropped on the realtors who had told us that we had to leave our home, but that was not intentional, it was not. So yeah, a lot of countryside got destroyed and people lost things, and yeah, at least our farm animals were already gone. Yeah, and that is my I'm going to question 4 because it fits. How do I deal with stressful situations? There's always a silver lining, right? I mean, there is that the houses actually didn't belong to us and the animals were safe. It's not great. I know that, but you know, I will always go for the Inspirbot saying thing, like, yes, we can, and everything has to be upbeat all the time. I'm a very happy person. I am. Sorry about that little storm breaking through here. I shouldn't be that excited about stuff. My influence, I think, is my dad, who's usually a solid guy, and he's good at making people feel relaxed and laugh, and he's just you know, he's a positive guy. He's not toxic positive. He's really like, he's good with jokes and stuff like that, and so he's an inspiration for me. He said that I had to go to school and learn because I was this little girl, and when I came back, it would be fine. Everything would be okay. Even if some things had changed, he still loves me. So, and so does my mom, but mom's daughter is difficult. I'm a teenager, so my dad is my hero. And the discovery of this power has changed me. I mean, I'm obviously, Dorothy is very scared of the power and what it entails, but she doesn't want to face that. She wants to be a goody two shoes superhero who saves the world from bad people now, because she can, right? And that's what she's going for with her life now. And if things are scary, then, well, heck darn, it will all work out fine in the end.
Heck darn. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to hear some heck darn moments. Good.
Well, I think I've got some. I haven't figured out my number 3. I've got kind of a vague idea of what I want them to be, but not what actual position in their life they are. But anyway, the terrible thing that happened, I was the Golden Gate incident. Basically, I think there was some sort of supervillain incident. There was some chaos on the Golden Gate Bridge. A school bus was knocked over the side. It started to fall, and I had to make the choice of risking my powers. Well, I had to, it was catching it. It bit its gate, and I went to catch it, and I did. I caught it, and I also ripped out many, or the suspension beam cables from the Golden Gate Bridge, and all the kids in the bus survived and were fine. But as I put here, insert number here, were not, of the people on the bridge. I don't know how big an event we were on that. But I mean, I think it was more than the amount of people on the bus that I saved. So
do you I love the iconic idea of Golden Gate Bridge, but that's on the other side of the United States from where the rest of the PBD game happens. Could we move that to Atlantica City? There are 3 bridges in Atlantica City, so it could happen.
Oh, so any kind of animosity would be local.
Maybe there were 4. Maybe there used to be 4 bridges.
Yes, I'm the reason why there are only 3 bridges.
Wow, used to be 4 bridges. Out there 3.
Yeah, I tore that bridge in half.
That's if you're cool with it,
okay. I like that. It kind of makes it more local and how do I deal with stressful situations? I start to think everyone's judging me and is against me, and I buck against that. How has the discovery of this power changed you? It's forced me to try, and it's forced me to second guess my actions, my impulsive actions, because she was always very impulsive, and she would get into a fist fight with somebody if they got in her face. But I mean, she could still do that, but if she started involving her powers, she had to, and I think the person who had an effect on her life, I think it's somebody who's kind of instilled in her, or tries to instill in her, that she's not a monster for a mistake. Also, I think they're kind of tough love to kind of, when she feels like she's being judged and starts to back against it, I think she needs somebody to, call her on it and just no, that's not what's happening here. Take a breath, listen to what I'm actually saying. So I mean, it could be somebody who is I don't know, it could be a family member, but it could also be some sort of caseworker type person who is, after the incident, or a teacher. Yeah,
that is interesting.
It could be an NPC from the academy.
Could it be this insurance network thing that we've mentioned? Could it be somebody who is a person on the ground? I'm just trying to, that might be a bit silly. I think it's something we could just circle back to, but if somebody does have some ideas, to kind of define that a bit more, I'm interested.
It feels to me that the game itself doesn't expect that person to be present in the academy. At least that's the feeling that I get. So we don't have to shoehorn them in, but it would be neat to have someone that you trust among the facility. So I think that's a good instinct that Sabine's thrown out there.
I mean, yeah, maybe somebody who, I don't know, maybe like somebody who's had maybe a similar journey, and maybe is maybe a little bit too similar to Karen, but maybe mellowed out more and has more control over their abilities, but still has that kind of, like the rest of us, these very dangerous powers. I mean, I don't know, is this like a academy thing that's school that's like in years, so it'd be like a third year, fourth year student?
That's a really good question.
Or actually a suggestion, counselor who was a student,
that could be interesting.
and they could either be Atlantean or human. I'm cool with. But yeah,
Maybe an Atlantean has studied human psychology.
One of the amphibs who've been sent here because they can deal with you walkers.
they're very good at not saying gillless, because that would just be rubbing salt in the wound.
Oh my goodness, this is so good. We're going to come up with our own little jargon.
Yeah.
I feel the Atlanteans wouldn't understand why rubbing salt in the wound would be bad, because they're swimming around. The water is salty.
Yeah.
So, okay. You're weird.
Good. Really good stuff. Oh, there are 3 core power questions that start on row 75. I think you've already answered at least half of them. Actually, I think you've answered them all. But don't forget to type it up. Woohoo! Lots of typing. Sorry. So I put in the NPCs tab some pictures that Alex had previously drawn that I've used a good number of them in our PvD game. Not married to any of them having to show up, but they're really cool pics, so I put them in there. And then I also stuck in a few NPC students, but again, they don't have to be used at all. I don't have any. Oh, I have to stick those folks into. I do like the idea of the administrator, Paoloa, but the others I'm flexible on. Folk are not interested.
Might I be better on and this purely because of game and hearing folks now? Would it be better if I had a person still alive who's my look up to? I'm just realizing now I've made them a dead end. Literally.
I don't think you have, because you've got wish powers, and that's what makes it really interesting to me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the instinct to check in, but to me, like, that's all in a way kind of worse, because there's that temptation to bring them back and they're not there to tell you no again.
Mm-hmm. Or to hear them, and I'm always in this kind of fantasy thought. Yeah.
Okay, I've answered the core power questions. It draws in more and more metal the further away that I manipulate. Nearby, it gives me precise control. Further away would be a metal storm. Answer to question 2 is see above, and then answer to question 3 is see metal storm.
Metal storm.
Yeah.
My answers, how can the core power cause a lot of damage? Hurricanes, tsunamis, flash floods. Need I go on? Really?
Yeah.
How's this core power difficult to control? Weather is a complex process, and fudging around with it can have unforeseen consequences. And how would this core power be
See all
dangerous
above.
in the wrong hands? It's dangerous in any hands.
It's dangerous in your hands, which I think is true for everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it can be used for good things, right? Right. Nothing happens without a reason.
Oh, by the way, do we want to put a number on how many people? By saying they were not fine, I definitely implying that people died on the bridge.
Yeah.
What keeps us with it from going into grimdark? What's the optimal level of death there?
Yeah, it's kind of a good idea, maybe, to keep it vague. Then we can say it's not grimdark. Fine.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, it's
I mean,
only this many. That's
one can be horribly impactful, and then you get to the concept of the next step is lots.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Many lots. That's
yeah. I would put many were not. That's what I put. Because that implies at least a busload of people.
You've still got less deaths on your head than, say, I don't know, Superman in the Snyderverse. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I just took out 5 buildings in 3 seconds.
I appreciate the check-in. I do think there's a value in, like, there is at least a narrative value in having that number, but I also feel like it could get in the grimdark area, and we're trying to.
The number in my head is 23. I don't know if that seems too many, too little. I mean, I'm sure if 23 people died, there was others that were injured. But that's just, yeah. So yeah, the person I looked up to is going to be counselor at school who was a student.
Have you gotten through all of yours, Alex?
I think so.
Let's see, my core power questions. How could this core power cause a lot of damage? I mean, my wishes come true. How is this core power difficult to control? Even a casual remark can rip apart reality. And how would this core power be dangerous in the wrong hands? Selfish wishes lead to people being hurt.
Some scary stuff. We are playing with fire.
not yet. Nobody has volcano powers.
Not yet.
Not yet. Volcano powers would be pretty great. King Crab might have some volcano powers, but he's not a student.
Yeah, he does not care. His powers are.
Also, he might be able to control them.
Or doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've cited him in the city, so I think at least he doesn't just cause buildings to explode in lava.
I mean, you need to have a volcano for volcano powers, don't you?
That's true.
Or you need to make one.
Yeah, I mean, you can reach
Okay,
down and
yeah.
grab
Yeah.
back, but everywhere's a volcano.
That's true. That's fair. That's wow. Okay,
Some
having
places
that go
are
off,
easier, but
having that go off in Atlantic City, that would be kind of terrible.
yeah, especially
Right.
if there's not one already, because you'd have to you'd have to cause a serious earthquake to pull it up through.
And you'd
the
have to.
tectonic
Then you have
plate.
a giant ass hole in the middle of the city, and I feel that the ocean would have some opinions about that.
Indeed.
Are we on to profiles?
Yeah, let's talk about profiles. Thank you for nudging us forward there. So there are 4 profiles, and the profiles help define how your character's superpowers affect their physical appearance. There are 4: aura, AURA, cloaked, shifted, and transformed. I would imagine that do we have a super's name for your character, Tyler?
Haven't
Reality.
yet. I've been trying to think. I've thought Jin, but that gets confusing because we have a Jin.
Yeah.
I thought fairy, or she. So I'm still sort of playing with it,
Okay.
having to do with wishes. We'll see.
Wishing
Let
well.
me think a bit.
I'm thinking I'm gonna go. I think aura for Karen. I think. Yeah, I think I've generally kind of got patches of glowing skin that it kind of moves around, and little kind of mostly harmless little arcs of electricity that go off me towards other bits of metal. I think it's not super.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's not super flashy, but you know, it's you can tell there's something going on.
I was wondering if either I should take aura as well. I could also take shifted when I'm kind of more about, but I feel that this whole, well, I'm trying to shift in places where people can't see me, like the Superman effect, would not be very pertinent if we're in the school for superpowered children, because I wouldn't have to hide my shifts. So
That's a good point.
I don't know if that's really really the thing that is has some value. I could also go with aura and just have constant winds blowing around me. I'm very sorry if I blow away people's papers. I didn't mean to.
Can we take tests
Same with
on
the
an
pens.
iPad, please?
Ooh.
I think with Karen in the room, that would be kind of difficult.
Wow.
Maybe. Yeah.
They've got
Also,
super science. They can do some shielding to the tech.
Oh, that's a good point, because I feel that if you get your electricity stuff gets too close to my clouds, that might lead to some unforeseen things that maybe are not that fun in the classroom.
I also am an aura. I am unearthly beautiful and have a blue glow that comes from within.
So all aura all the time. That's cool. Just be advised that profile affects when you get value points. And you receive +1 value point at the end of a scene where you use your appearance to draw unwanted attention to yourself, or use your power to take a stand on one of your values. I worry about that being like a little of everybody's aura, then everyone's taking a stand on their value.
If I'm gonna have a look at the others, but I can see if something would also fit.
I could also go with shifted. We only play 3 sessions, so I think it's not that important. And then that means that I would have to basically kind of wiggle my finger and get some winds going before I get up in the air and blow everything up.
That can be cool. You get a +1 value point at the end of a scene when you overcome an embarrassing situation or avoid a difficult situation to shift.
Yeah, I'm really don't see how that would actually happen if you're in a school for superpowered children, because how's that embarrassing? Or I mean, maybe I shouldn't shift in the classroom. But that's a kind of an odd
I would agree.
rule.
It is weird that the profiles don't seem like they're designed to work well in scenes where you're in a controlled environment. That's a very good
I'm guessing that the idea is that you aren't always in the school.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that
I mean, I
is
don't
the
know.
point, because we have the cloaked, and that doesn't really make sense if they're in a
So I do think we're
super
going to have
academy.
to figure out some ways to get you guys out your school, which is fun.
Okay. I think Dorothy embarrasses pretty easily. Also, I think shifting in a manner that damages a bystander's property is pretty easy with my powers.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so I get +1 to manipulate someone to do something they otherwise would not have done. Yeah, threat of metal storm will do that. Is the values thing, is there a selection of numbers we should be taking from rolling?
Great question. So you start with 3 values, and then there's a point. You start with 3 value points. Assign them between all 3 values in the appropriate section of the Super PCs tab. A single value cannot begin the story with more than 2. So you can either go 111, 012.
I mean, these are 3 different dice types, right? We get a T8, T10, and a T.
No, you're thinking of the
Something?
conflict, interaction, and protection
Okay.
actions.
I see.
These are
Okay.
just numbers.
Oh, right.
And to help it click into place, hopefully, if you pop to the turn sequence, what a value does is you can reduce the target number that you need to roll if you can apply one of your values to it. It's in step 2, set the target number. So I would tell you, here's the base target number, and then you could say, oh, well, I've got so and so value. You could reduce the target number based on that value if it applies.
Okay, so if I choose to put 0 into my heroic value, then I wouldn't get to reduce the target number, because it would reduce it by 0, and that is not a lot.
Correct.
Two for troublesome, I think 1 for psychological. I think. We'll see how that goes.
I've set mine too. The heroic value is everyone deserves a chance to be happy, right?
Nice.
And my troublesome is I am toxic positivity. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. We'll ignore everything else that is not fine, because it's not fine and that we don't need it. And my psychological value is I have to be a good person. There's no other way for me. Can't just be a regular person, because I'm not. I just have to be the person, and I will. I got a calendar with inspirational quotes on it that my dad gave me before I came
like it. Those are good.
I can't remember the response line clearly enough for my troublesome one. What are you rebelling against, Karen? We don't want the response to that is it. What have you got?
Are you asking
rebel without a cause?
Rebel without a clue. That's funny.
Okay, so with values, each of those has 1 point in it, right? Is that the deal?
You have 3 points to distribute. None of them
Is
can
it
be more than 2.
distribute?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go 1, 1, 1, or you can go 0, 1, 2, however you want. Of those either 2 options, really.
I gotcha. I just didn't see where it says maybe it's in the book rather than the.
No, it's in Chargen. It's just kind of not the clearest. It is on row 95. I'll bold it for Jen. When she comes through.
Okay. Oh, so they have the pick your values and then assign your values afterwards. Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, you pick your values or describe your values, and then you assign 3 value points.
Then you do your super action die. Then you determine how many value die points you have. I got you.
Although they say you don't get a powered die to start. You start with a D12 overpower. Everybody does, even though it says basically you create your core power and then you have an overpower die of a D12. It just makes it sound like you're going to give it some kind of value, but it has one. There are super action dice. Maybe I misunderstood. So there are super action dice whenever you attempt a roll for an action in the story. It will be one of 3 types of actions: conflict, interaction, or protection. You assign a D12, a D10, and a D8 to conflict, interaction, and protection actions. I created on the Super PCs thing little checkboxes, so hopefully that makes it easy. And there are hover over little pop-ups for each of the action dice type.
So the action dice, are we choosing like, okay, conflict, I'm going to choose D6 for that dice.
Right. You'll start with a D8, a D10, and a D12 to start in conflict, interaction, and protection.
Got it.
As well.
I do find it amusing. I hope that in Europe, well, maybe I don't hope. In Europe, the idea of being a Karen, is that a meme
Yes,
that has
yeah.
okay. All right.
And Karen knows about it. And she will get grumpy. Humor.
I don't think you played in this game, Rich, but Sherry had a character once that was Karen, and that was her character type. She was a good side of a Karen, but she was always going out to make sure the party was getting what they were supposed to. And excuse me.
Oh, it's delightful.
Changeling. I think that's what it was. She was a changeling like Bogart or something like that. That was her aspect, was being a Karen.
That's great.
I've chosen my dice. I've put, so the higher the better you are at that situation. The higher dice.
That might actually be a fallacy, because if you roll too high, and you will cause a lot of havoc, right? So if you have a d12, chances for havoc are greater.
That's true.
Okay, I might have to just reverse everything then.
I mean, if you roll a d8, chances are that you might not make the target number and nothing happens. So I think it's a bit strategic, actually, but you have to, because I thought about this while I was hiking around the park today. Like, how does that work? Because if you knock your target number down to 4 and then you roll a d12, the chances for havoc are pretty good.
Okay, well, I think my interaction needs to be a d12. And because that's, I think, the most chance of just going really badly wrong.
I don't think we get a d6. We get a d8,
You
d10,
don't.
and d12.
That's correct. You
Yeah.
start at d8, d10, d12. You're bad at things. In that you do too much. You guys are too extreme.
Too many pouches.
You guys are all Liefeld characters. It's the best.
So you want to roll low in this game?
Well, what you want to do is you want to roll exact. If you roll, so that's a great question, and let me walk through an example, just because you're assigning stats, and I think it will be helpful. So we have this action roll result table here with cool colors, but I'll jump over to the turn sequence. So you say you're going to do a thing, and then I would set a base target number. We'll say I say it's a 6. You can use you can reduce the target one number for one value lesson in bond each that applies. So you could effectively say, let's say for whatever reason, you've got a value, a lesson. Lessons happen as we play. That's why you guys are in training. And bonds, I'm still a little unsure on, but you reduce it by 3. So now you got a base target of 3. You can use base backstory modifiers to increase or decrease the target number. But if you've already used 3 values to decrease it, why would you increase it? So let's say you're going to leave it at a 3. Then you increase the target number by 1 for every applicable complication that could hinder you in this action. Complications come as a result of previous die rolls generally. So let's say this is a fresh thing. You don't have any complications. You roll your dice, you roll your action, you choose your action, which is the 3 action types, and you roll your dice. Add your overpower die. And instead, if applicable, then you roll against that target number. Let's say that the target number is 3. If you're rolling a d10 against that 3, then the target number is 3. If you roll a 3 on that d10, it's exactly what you wanted. It's effective with no havoc whatsoever. If you roll a 4 or a 5, then it is effective, right? It's equal to the target number effective. Greater than the target number is going to cause havoc. If it yields 1 if it's a 4 or 5 or a 6, 7, or 8 on that die roll, then it is effective, and you've yielded 2 havoc that have to. These are points that will have to be assigned to havoc events before the end of the scene. If you rolled again D10, if you rolled a 10, then you've yielded 3 or more havoc. The action is ineffective and spirals out of control. So the higher amount of dice that you're rolling, the higher chance that you're going to generate havoc, right? And you can lower that target number if you'd like, but you're not lowering the die value that you're rolling. Hopefully that makes sense. And then havoc, before the end of the scene, you have to purchase these things. You got to spend it. Let's say you generate that 3 havoc. Then you could say, okay, I do this thing and it fails because I've got 3 havoc. So I cause some collateral damage and I get hurt. The good thing is I get hurt, so I get a value point out of it. So that might be why I choose it. But let's say that you rolled, in that exact same example, 7, you've generated 2 havoc. I did exactly what I wanted. I protected that person. Let's say it was a protection action. But now I got to buy off 2 havoc. So villain, the thing with V is evidently the GM rolls dice in this. Don't love it, but okay. Maybe it burns my power out, momentarily lose my power, right? I'm not sure how a wisher loses their power. Maybe you freak yourself out and you're afraid to say anything along those lines. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. The other thing is you protected this one person, but it threatens bystanders or allies. And then if they end up getting harmed, then you get a value point out of it. Does that clarify? Does that help?
Yeah.
I think doing it once will work. It'll be even smoother. But since you're assigning those dice, I want you to at least know.
So if you have 3 or more havoc, it's going to be ineffective and spiral out of control.
Correct.
But then you can choose to just fail and gain a value point.
Exactly.
So why would you ever yield 3 or more havoc?
No, if you choose to fail, that means you're not even rolling dice. You say, I want to do this thing. Okay, here's a target. Oh, crap. I am rolling a D12 on this. I'm just going to fail. And that means GM, give me a hard move. You get a value point for it. Here's your cookie. I'm going to make your life terrible.
Okay, so it's not that this isn't steps in order. So it's not like I roll and then I can choose number 4.
Yes. You need, and I don't love that it's the last thing at the end because it feels like, oh, I rolled terrible. I'll just choose to fail and get a value point.
Yeah.
But it's a decision point earlier. It's like the 4 outcomes. The first one is you can choose to fail. Now you're saying, nope, I'm going to roll dice. So maybe I'll just reorder that because I can't rewrite the book, but I could reorder this. I think I will. Because I think it's a really good piece of feedback.
Yeah. Determine target. Choose if you want to continue on or not, then have the results. Okay, that makes sense. Oh. That does make for a strategic choice on these die.
It does. It's got a lot. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
And that's all the character generation we do at the start.
Yeah, it does not appear that you start with a bond, which I think is a bummer.
Or backstory or lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you actually have to have backstory scenes kind of or no, you have to have a spotlight scene. And then that will give you the possibility of
We do get 3 value points that we can assign between all 3 values in the appropriate section of the Super PC tab, which is the appropriate section.
All right, is that a question or is that a statement?
Yes. Oh, that's the superstar and value point, huh?
Yeah, heroic, troublesome.
Oh, okay. That's down
here are
there
the
and should have
values.
been. Okay, I was confused, but now I'm not. Thank you.
Yes. There will be points of this game where several times where we're like, okay, this seems out of order, but I think together we will work through it.
Are we planning on giving us a little test run tonight?
I'd
Or are
like
we
to do a
just-
test run. I'm mixed on whether I want to do a test run that is official canon versus a test run of just let's see the mechanics in action. But we can talk through that. Because I feel like people's characters might be at
done,
least
right?
done. Yeah.
What's a manifestation, though?
Oh, great question. Manifestation is. I'll look it up so I can see.
Where is that even?
It's at the
under your
top. It's
core
right
power.
underneath.
Oh yeah.
And is there a box for value points, because we're supposed to get them? And we're
Yes,
supposed
it
to be
is.
good.
For your character, it currently says 111.
No,
on rows
if we get
8,
value
11.
points, we get value points, and then do we just
They'll
get
add
to
up.
assign
Yeah.
them to
Yeah,
whatever
you
step we
assign 3.
want?
You have 3
Oh,
value points to assign. You can either do it 111
no.
or 012.
Yeah, but we are supposed to get value points during game.
Which will
Yes,
add to
absolutely.
those, because I think
Correct.
that's a currency.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Cool. Nice.
Manifestations are so if you get 5 havoc, you can create a manifestation. A student's power erupts in a furious explosion. They manifest an extension of their core power. This creates a new manifestations for the student. It also creates additional havoc, granting the GM havoc equal to the total number of manifestations created in the story so far. Let me see if I can get a little bit more, because it's using the word manifestation to explain manifestations. When your power goes wildly out of control, you get a manifestation. It reveals an extension of your core power, and you create an ongoing effect or specific immunity while still performing your core power.
It's like Phoenix Fire.
Yeah.
Oh.
An effect is an ongoing extension of your power that's used in combination with your core power. An immunity allows you to automatically ignore the effects of a particular type of trauma, energy, or other source of concern in the narrative. An example: after rolling 5 havoc on a conflict roll, Kat decides now is the time to manifest an additional power for Cadence, their character. She envisions a sonic force field around her character that protects her from physical dangers like bullets or debris. This is an immunity, but the GM wants to stipulate this immunity only applies to anything that can be believably shattered or disintegrated by sonic energy. Metal, bullets could pass through the sonic force field, but most debris would likely turn to dust on impact. Does that help?
Yeah.
So you don't start with manifestations, but you may very well, in a big fight scene, end up with manifestations as a result.
I'm so torn between whether my D12 should be in conflict or protection, because I'm thinking of whether I have where my most likely havoc will turn up and what I'll have it where I'm going to be happy with causing havoc. I want to be very good at protecting people, but I feel like if I conflict and have my power do that, well, then I would use overpower, wouldn't I, if it's my power? Conflict would be more along the lines of my physical capability to fight and stuff, right?
Right. If you're trying to avoid using your power, then you would go conflict. But if you're wishing it away, then you just roll your overpower die.
That makes sense.
Okay, that changes things for me.
Sorry. I wish I had been clear in the first time through then.
So yeah, so anytime I'm going to be using my powers to do one of those kind of actions, it would be
D12.
overpower, D12. Otherwise, I'm going to be
How do we wreak havoc without our powers, though? We're just teenagers.
That's a
Um,
great question. I would say that your powers. That's a great question.
I mean, I imagine if I have a D12 in conflict and I cause 5 havoc with my fists. I'm sorry, I don't
No,
understand.
that's a
understand,
really
yeah.
good. That's a really good point. Is that okay? I'm actively trying to avoid using my powers. How did I create such titanic trouble?
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
that it might be. We may just have to fall back on. Yeah, you didn't want to use your power, but you rolled this level of havoc. Evidently, your power came
Manifest in
forth.
some way, yeah.
Mhm.
If you generate enough havoc. And what's weird is you've got a D12 in something, so you're trying to avoid havoc by not using your overpower, but you're rolling a die value that's going to generate as much havoc as your overpower would.
Yeah.
It's weird because it says roll the die associated with that action plus your overpower die.
So plus you're right, it does say plus.
If you roll the exact target number, you gain +1 value point for that action.
Wait, where
Cool,
are you reading it?
but
Because in the roll of the dice it says
I'm on the
or you're
PD. I'm in the PDF
in the
on
PDF?
page
Okay.
77.
Okay, thank you. I'll jump over to that.
I was like, huh? But it's still not very clear. Because if I roll the die associated with the action plus my overpower die, which takes precedence, do I get both results? There's an example.
If you use power for this action, you can create havoc. So then that sounds to me that if you didn't use a power, you are not creating havoc.
Mhm.
Wow, that's super confusing.
Mhm.
So is that saying then that if you're getting into a conflict, but you're expressly not using your power, you roll a d12 and you roll over, you're not generating havoc, is what it seems to indicate. Then what do? Do you succeed?
Mhm.
Do you fail?
I would guess you would succeed.
Oh. Wait, I think I'm at the page 83. Says beginning of story, blah blah. They add their overpower when the student uses their power during action. They add their overpower die to the roll. Okay. Yes, fine. And then we reduce it, but still unclear.
There are some examples. So yeah, I think reading the examples might unlock some of the.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I found an example. It's on page, let me look, 85. So Marcus rushes to their aid. This is a
Was the
protection
PDF
roll.
shared with us at any point?
I'm sorry. I shared it with Sabina a while back.
Okay, sorry.
Let me share that with you guys. I'll do it right now.
The link was somewhere in the thing.
I'll share it right now.
You roll both dice.
And which do you
one
choose?
counts?
The higher or
Oh,
the,
you add
your
them.
choice?
You add them.
What?
Yep. That's what I'm reading. Kyle rolls D8 protection, D10 overpower die for a total of 12. So Yep. Okay.
I am really confused.
Yeah, you roll both of them if you're using your powers.
But if you're not using your powers, you don't.
No, you only use the overpower die when you use your powers. So you get to roll with your D12 against a target of whatever, 5 or 6, and hope that you won't cause havoc.
It is a total.
in the example, it used one of the three, the conflict, interaction, protection, correct?
Yeah.
And you rolled an overpower.
Mhm.
And it says somewhere in there that using a power to say protect someone, you'd use your overpower die.
Yeah, you always have to use
Trying to protect someone without using your powers, you would not. Okay. And then, of course, we have a power stat.
Yes, that's confusing, right?
Okay.
But that's not the same. We
It's
have
not the same,
power
right.
and overpower.
And
Whatever
these die types are our hit points as well, right? We drop die types for damage. One guesses, since that person had an overpower of D10.
No, I think you drop them when you actually use them.
Okay, but they do drop.
You can lower your overpower die at one level if you participate in the academy's training.
Ew.
And when it's reduced one level below D6, it converts to the power die at D6. And from that point on, when you're draining, you get it up again. And I think the power dice are a little bit more controlled, I guess. I'm on page 83 still.
Yeah. Okay. This is helping a lot. So
Did you share?
Yes, I did. Check in Slack. I figured that I put it in a semi-permanent place.
Need access.
What? Okay, I'll give you access. Sorry.
I just sent you a request.
All right. Okay, checking out. I updated the permissions. Hopefully you're golden now. Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
Okay, we are discovering, Alex, that you may be rolling your power dice all the time. So at the beginning of the story, all students have a D12 overpower die. Whenever a student uses their power during an action, they add their overpower die to the roll. Remember, using a power means there's a risk of the student causing havoc.
So it's on top of the conflict dice and
correct.
All the interaction, all that. Yeah. Okay.
But the good news is if you're expressly saying, no, I don't want to use my powers, it appears you just rolled that conflict or hold on, conflict, interaction, or protection die. And I think what would happen there is you're still looking for the exact result. And if you wouldn't cause havoc, but basically a 1 or 2 would still be effective. So rolling high dice does benefit you. It's just when your overpower comes in, if you haven't gotten the training, it's bad news happens a lot. It's stuff starting to fall into place. I'm starting to figure it out.
I mean, you can still take havoc because take a complication, become harmed, stuff like that. Could still apply to someone not using powers. If I try to get people to safety by yelling at them that they should move, and I roll for havoc, then I might get hurt, or some complication might happen.
That's true. So there is still havoc, but it says you don't generate havoc if you're not using your power.
Okay, then that's fine. So I guess the if you hit the exact spot and the one above and the other one above, then you don't. Then it just works.
I'm guessing also GM can step in and say, no, you're not allowed to just use your punch to save that plane from crashing into the ground. You don't have to use your powers.
Pretty sure you.
But I rolled and succeeded.
But pretty sure you'd have to use some fictional positioning to. Be allowed to even make that roll.
Yeah. I'm guessing because you set task. What's the word? The
target number.
Target number. You set a target number, so obviously, the punch doing a punch would not get you enough of a high number. So you just.
So you can actually use your backstory modifier to add a +1 or -1 modifier to the current action roll, which is cool.
that is a good thing to have, a backstory modifier.
Okay, so all target numbers start at
Yes,
6 and then they get modified.
Thank you.
That's I'm not trying to
No, you're just reading through it. It's
teach.
fine.
Yeah, I'm just going through and figuring for myself.
I am so sorry I didn't share the PDF yet, but thank you guys for asking for it. Okay. Prologues. Yeah, we could potentially. So in the prologue, you're not supposed to roll dice or worry about the scene points. So that's cool. You may work through a.
Or we could just work through the scene just to see how the dice rolling
Yeah, I think it
works.
it might behoove
And then do
us.
prologues when we have Jen.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. I like that.
So yeah, by all indications, if you would roll into the ineffective but create havoc, if you're not using a power, you still will be ineffective, but you will not
Ooh,
generate havoc if you're rolling without a power. If you roll exact, you're still going to get that +1 value. If you roll within the effective but create havoc, you would be effective but not create havoc. Then if you determine havoc if you used a power for the action. If you did not, you won't.
So if you're not using powers, this is a pretty much pass-fail game.
Yes, with 2 directions of fail.
Yeah.
It's a finding the happy medium, which
Yeah.
might be a, I don't know. It might be a concept in the game. You don't, too much and too little are both bad. I don't know if they thought that far on it, but it makes sense. Of course, when you declare the action, the GM's going to tell you if A, it needs a roll, or B, if you can do it without a power, or if it's possible to do it all. I mean, theoretically, I've got fire powers and I want to put out a fire. Well, that may not be the greatest example. I want to make a sculpture out of dirt. I probably cannot do that with my power. I would have to reach down and make it out of my hands or whatever. Then you adjust the target values by all the variosities, complications, all the shit people can put in.
Can we open up the dice roller and just
Yeah, I went with a visual
example
die
situation
roller
and
for this one. Just because I thought it might be helpful to. Oh, that's not what I did. Oh, poop. Hold
Do
on,
we
let me-
not have thwart?
Yeah, so you don't. Thwart is a thing that villains do because, as Sabine pointed out to me, this game almost wants to be a GM-less game, with the GM being another player at the table. Visual dice table. That's what I needed. Sorry. Let me.
Okay, that's cool. Then.
Let me grab. I thought that's what I was doing, but I did not. So I'll make it.
Because from the way I've read the game, it's actually up to the players to frame the scenes.
Yeah, you actually buy them. Like you,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
have-
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a bunch of interesting stuff here. It's just it's radically different. So I struggle a little bit. We could roll through refuses destruction of the I don't know. Destruction of the bridge, like this, just something really fascinating.
And you could choose to succeed if you fail or if you're ineffective. By gaining a complication, the GM's choosing in exchange for moving one step from the scene without causing havoc.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
The action is considered effective, but with the cost of a new complication.
Where's that at?
Page 86, top of the page. Choosing to succeed or fail.
Okay. 2 ways a player can alter their result into something favorable. Choose to succeed, gain a complication. Choose. Choose to fail, automatically treat the result as ineffective, negating hot havoc, +1 volume. But you get a complication. Express more than 3 complications that cannot choose to succeed or fail. 2 buck down.
And it appears that though you can choose to fail after you see how much havoc you create. The example below showing.
Oh, wow.
And you
I
even get
kind
a
of
value.
like that.
You even get a +1 value point if you do that.
Right.
But you also get a complication.
Right.
That's nice.
I do like that option. It's almost a safety tool in a way of like, holy crap, this is terrible. I, the player, am not comfortable with the amount of havoc this would create at this situation. I'll just choose to be ineffective and get a complication for it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then havoc can be spent by us, and then there's special, or all of us, and then there's special ones that only you, Rich, as the villain can spend.
Yes. Villains
Those are
and
the ones with
minions.
the V. Those are the ones with the V behind
Yep.
them.
That's nifty. So it is very cooperative in the storytell.
Yeah, the game kicks off the PDF, opens up saying, hey, this is supposed to be a collaborative style game. You kept a GM, but it would probably just take a shove and it would be a GM-less game. I like keeping a GM though, personally. Just personal.
I like keeping a GM, especially primarily to drive plot. I think that GM-less games tend to meander around.
Yes, that's been my experience as well.
Does the GM get? Yeah, you get scene points, right? You can frame your own
I do.
scenes.
Yes.
Cool.
In fact, I
Okay.
remember in one of the examples early
Cool.
on, it was like the GM says, oh, I see you don't have many scene points, but don't worry. I will spend a scene point to give you extra Y, and because I want this scene.
I think I missed where you actually, is there like that a number that's given at the start? Like you have this many scene points.
It is rolled at the beginning of each act. Everybody rolls, including the GM.
Okay.
And that's how many scene points we all get. And there's a point I created on the Super PC where you've got your scene points.
We can switch them around. In fact, I think we have to switch them around.
You can, right? One person can say, "Oh crap, you rolled like total poop. Here, let me give you 1 or 2 points from my total."
And the value points aren't just like one for, I'd like to reduce my roll by 1 point, I spend 1 value point. It's by 5 on the heroic value point on all of them, it looks like.
Where's that?
Now I'm at the top of 97 value point spending.
Okay. Value point spending.
Each one has some special things they do, but all of them can spend 1 and you'll reduce your action roll by 5.
Oh, snap.
Oh. Wow. By 5 straight or by up to 5?
It just says 5. So I think
By
it's 5.
There.
There's a re-roll off of the psychological, but you can't do overpower power die.
Wow, these are fiddly. They're interesting, but yeah, I think I'm gonna have to drop that into the
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
gonna
have to
drop
have
those as
those.
notes because that's some stuff right there.
And you have your thwart things you can do.
Oh. Huh.
Wow, with the heroic value, you can absorb havoc for somebody else.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So at your heroic value points assignment, I am adding a note that talks about the 3 things you can do with the heroic value point.
And you can spend as many points as you want on multiple effects,
Oh,
but the same effect cannot be used multiple times.
Mm.
So you could choose to do, if you had points in every one of them, you could choose, 3 points in each of them. You could do every single one of those choices, but you could not do any one of those choices twice.
variety's the spice of life. You guys are really, really helping. I sat down with the express purpose of learn this game today, and
Then after you have a training scene, student achieves their goal, they could spend 3 value, any combination, to reduce over power die or increase power die by 1 at the end of the training if they achieve their goal. And that's
but
an
you
instead of
don't
approving
get
action.
if you achieve your goal, awesome. And you don't get a power die at all until you've I'm
Done
going
some
off what
training.
you'd said. So you've gone through training, and interesting.
Super is never forced to take a particular value point, such as psychological value point, and a player can refuse a value point when offered. A student can instead take a scene point instead of a value point.
Oh.
Oh, I want to buy another scene with X or Y. Interesting. So Alex had thrown out the possibility of trying to run through a scene to see how things would go. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, that seems like a really good idea, because
Yeah.
there are a lot. I think there are a lot of rule subset thingies that we have to kind of figure out, because scene points, how do they work? What do we do with them? Do we want to have a conflict, a battle scene?
Yeah.
Do we want to take a break before we do this?
Yeah, let's take a break. Okay, we are back, and this is us working through a scene. We're going to openly declare it not canon at the outset, unless we all really like it. Then we'll finagle our minds backwards. I think we'll do a group scene just so everybody gets to play through it, if that's cool.
We're not rolling for scene points.
We're not rolling for scene points. Yeah, we're going to obviate a lot of the other stuff that could.
Do we determine what kind of scene it is then?
That's a great question. Let's just talk about it. So
Okay.
there are a number of scenes. Of course, a battle scene is easy enough. If we were to say the 3 of you were in battling something, a training scene could be a way to go as well. Those are, easy. Let's do a fight. The emo stuff, like vital scenes, are probably.
I think vital scenes are not their own scene type. Vital scenes are stuff that gets attached to other scene types. So we can have a vital battle scene, a vital interaction scene, or a vital thing scene with us one training
I
scene.
see. You're saying, this is vital, and it adds to the cost.
Yeah.
Oh,
It ups the cost, but it also says, hey, I want this to have fictional weight.
It's kind of the mechanical version of, this is a big one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we could do a spotlight scene, or just straight up do a battle. Where is your head at on this, Alex, since you asked for it first?
very, very quickly have the scenes in front, the actual scenes in front.
There's a scenes tab. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Before we can choose a scene, the vital stuff, does it take into account that, like, if, or is this going, complete miscomprehending the kind of how you make and place scenes? If a scene becomes vital, like, through actual interaction, like suddenly somebody says something that's like, oh shit, we're onto something here. This is. That's just a thought I threw out. Maybe just something, a training scene.
Okay. That seems great. You're definitely going to be having a number of training scenes throughout the game. It seems to be a staple for the game. Tyler, are you cool with it being a training scene?
Sure.
All right. What training scene, I guess, do you determine the type going in? Let's see. First training, 1 scene point plus 1 scene point, additional training scene until the start of the next act. Interesting. So if you keep hitting training scenes, it becomes more and more subsequently more expensive. So if we were to say this would be the opening scene, then it costs 1 scene point. Afterward, it costs plus 1 scene point for every additional training scene until the start of the next act. The number of steps involved is 1 step per super involved in the scene, plus a 2d6 step roll, plus 2 steps for every additional training scene in the current act. Meaning, as you continue doing training scenes, it becomes more steps added.
To become longer.
Right. They become longer. So it's 1 step per super involved, 3 supers involved, and a 2d6 step roll, which I will roll right now. I'm going to change my color to blue because I like blue. Rolling my dice. Okay. So I've rolled a 9. So at the outset, we know that this is a 12-step scene.
Wow.
That is a lot, but it's 2d6. So the game, I think the game expects lots of dice to hit the table. From my read of it, it wants you to roll dice a lot, often, frequently. So just keep that in mind.
That's nice.
Okay. So let's see. Let's say that this training sequence is taking place in the biodome at the academy, and the 3 of you are, well, do we determine if it's a conflict interaction within the training at the outset? I think we do, right? We say it's a conflict interaction protection.
I mean, we're.
Tyler, what would you prefer? A conflict interaction or protection training scene?
Now, conflict may be more interesting. Protection sounds interesting as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a protection.
Let's do a protection training scene then. So at the outset of the scene, the 3 of you have been told that Aim Laquan, the humongous, you can see him on, or see it on row 6, H6 in the NPCs. It is a humongous creature. I'm imagining like 8 feet tall. It has some weird bioorganic device. It is extremely strong. It is a member of the faculty. It is going to be trying to harm a a person. And you guys have been told you must protect it. We will say the person leading this training sequence is Azamar. And Z thinks that the three of you need to learn how to use your powers to protect those weaker than you, the nethers. So this is a nether. This is a non-empowered individual. And I think this just, we'll say that it is a, I think it's a volunteer, an Atlantean volunteer who will be representing your nether. Yeah. We'll say that they are like an anemone person, a sea anemone person. So they just kind of undulate a little bit. They're cute. They're pinkish in color, pinkish in hue. And if you jump to the academy, just so we have a sense of place, they're in the pond. So if you look in the little floor plan that I've thrown in there, they're in the pond. By the way, if we decide that this floor plan is terrible, just say so, and I'll swap it out. I did some Googling on floor plans of biodomes, and this one seemed workable. So
It's pretty.
It is. It's neat. So the sea anemone, your nether to protect, is in the pond, and I believe we will say that Emilia begins near Upper Falls Court. So there's a bridge, and then kind of middle towards the top is the Upper Falls Court. Just picturing, like, there's no, thank God, no like hex map stuff. It's all theater of the mind. But just to get things started, where is Dorothy at the beginning of this training sequence?
I think she's standing on the edge of the pond,
Nice.
and looks up and looks down to the anemone person that she's supposed to keep safe.
Is Dorothy behind the pond, like Emilia Kwan is on the far side, or do you imagine that Dorothy has interposed herself between the anemone and your enemy?
She has interposed herself.
Nice. Standing right at the edge of the pond, there's that little river that snakes down from the waterfall there and just rushes past you, and the sea anemone. Should I be afraid now?
I will power up now, so I can't really answer.
Its little anemone eyes grow wider when you start powering up. You know, you're now
Yeah.
empowered. What does that
Yeah.
empowering look like? And of course, we can edit it later if you're like, yeah, I didn't like the way it looked now. This is all...
I think what happens is that her hair, she usually wears it in French braid, but now it comes loose and starts flowing with the wind. The winds
awesome. You
start
look like
picking
you're in
up around
80s
her.
metal video. I love it.
Yes, a little. I don't think her clothes change so much. But, oh, yes, of course her clothes change, because the usual clothes that she wears above some sort of rather sturdy onesie, they get ripped off. I mean, she wears stuff beneath it. It's a kind of a bluish onesie with a little heart here, a little silver heart.
So cute.
And yeah, and she is she's kind of loses the touch of the ground as the winds pick her up a little. She
nice.
doesn't fly
a little bit
off.
of floating. Love
Yeah,
it.
a little bit floating.
Okay, what about refuse or refuse, based on who's asking? Where are you when this scene opens?
She's always quite reluctant to use her powers, but she needs to learn. Okay. Is that railings around the overlook?
Trying to find the overlook.
The cliff study lounge overlook.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll say there are railings there. Absolutely, because they're made of metal. Sure.
Yeah, I want to be like, if I'm gonna need to use my powers, I want to be next to that thing. I don't want to be across the way, so I set up there.
And how does Refuse appear when this scene initially opens and Osmar is telling you you must protect this nether at the pond?
She's got her arms. She's like hunched over the railing, hands on the railing, and there's little arcs of electricity kind of going off onto the railings.
Nice.
Like glow to her eyes. The hair kind of. I mean, I think her hair always has that kind of slightly. Looks kind of like it's underwater in some ways. Because of the static electricity, it just has this kind of underwater feel.
I just saw Tyler picked a name, and I adore it. So good, so good.
Yeah, she's watching and she's concentrating.
Cool. And then Tyler, where is your wishful character?
I am kneeling close to where if we have Dorothy kind of up front interposing between, I'm kind of kneeling back by the pond area next to where the anemone is.
Cool. And the sea anemone, they look over at you and they say, I'm frightened now. You have to protect me. It's very
Don't worry.
excellent. So Amelia Kwan starts sprinting towards the pond. You had best do something, or I will, children.
Okay then, I guess. It wanted that, right? So I think I just throw out a bit of wind to pick them up and whirl them around a bit until they get a little woozy or something like that. Probably won't work, but you never know.
So you're planning on trying to pick Amelia Kwan up.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep. Just push them back so that our anemone friend is protected.
So just so we're clear, friends, me speaking to you, my friend, because of the way this is set up, there are 12 steps in this scene. A step is an effective action. We may quit. This may take a while. So let's build our first roll with Dorothy trying to use her power.
Huh?
But it sounds like a conflict. Does that sound right?
You're
right, taking
yes.
the first. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have to be a good person, right? Because
You do.
I do.
I'm going to say that Amelia Kwan is a very thick. It is a thick and heavy individual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that the difficulty for this is an 8. We will start with 8.
Okay, I think
Just to kind of make sure, kind of on turn, we always started at 6. You're adding 2 complications.
Yes, I'm adding complications. We started a base target of 6. I am increasing the target number by 1 for every applicable complication that can hinder the character in this action. Amelia Kwan is humongous and also weighs a great deal.
Excellent. Okay, cool.
By the way, interrupt me as much as you want. This is good. We're all learning this. These are good questions. So
I don't have to use my battle point, right, to reduce the 8 to a 7. Because I'm rolling 2d12 right now. So
that's a great question.
Maybe don't want to do that.
So that's a great question, but there was a thing I caught in the book where it said that you have to, and I just want to make sure.
Have to use, what was the question?
A value point. Like if a value point applies,
you have to use it.
Yeah, I just want to check it again because that felt really, in a collaborative game, that felt very forceful. So triggered by the narrative. I'm in the 120s. Setting the target number. Okay, managing the target number is about more than determining the difficulty of an action roll. Placing a wager on how fruitful it'll be. Nope, that is not helping me. Okay. Jump back to
Actions.
yeah, I think it's in the 80s.
Blah, just the target number.
Okay, there we
Okay.
go. Yeah, page 80 in the PDF.
Okay. Yeah, it says target number is reduced by 1 for each applicable value.
Right.
Can be okay. That
And this is
must be
all
used.
values that do apply to the current action must be used to
Okay.
reduce. That's where I've
Wow.
read it. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. So does everyone deserves a chance to be happy also apply?
I don't know, because I feel like if we apply it in a conflict role
Mm.
where you're trying to protect one person from being hurt by another person, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. It
I'm
definitely
just
feels
adding
like
dice.
a,
I'm
yeah.
just adding dice. I'm not rolling them. Just be
Okay.
clear.
Okay.
I will roll them now.
Okay, just so let's make sure we haven't jumped too fast.
Yeah.
So we have a value that has decreased the target number back down to a 7. And I've added my complication. So yeah, roll your dice. You're in the right, you're in the right sequence.
Okay.
You're on 2d12 and adding them together.
Okay, let's see how that goes. It's a 10.
It is a 10.
That is not too shabby, I think.
Not too shabby. We'll share real
shot
quick so
over.
we're all looking at the same thing. So
Yep.
it's prettier in the Super
Mhm.
PCs one, so I'll just go to the pretty one. So our target number was a 7. You have rolled a 10. You needed a 7. You've rolled a 10. So you're in the, yeah, exactly. So that means that your roll is effective. So we have now used up one of our 12 steps.
Just 11 left.
And yes, just 11 left. And so it's effective, and you yield 1 havoc. Right? Let me see. 1 havoc. Yep. 1 havoc. Do we have a place? I don't think I put a thing. So we'll just note that there is 1 havoc. I'm going to actually add 1. No, I'm going to do a countdown clock. Ha ha ha, because that's fun. We'll say that there are 8 segments in the havoc. So I've created a countdown clock in our thing, and we currently have 1 havoc. You see it in the die roller? Okay.
So that means we just go on, and the havoc we'll decide what the havoc is after the.
Right. You can right now buy off that havoc immediately. You can bank that havoc knowing that you've got to spend it before the end of the scene.
Okay. I think with 1 havoc, I'm good at not spending it. Maybe later on someone can.
All right. So you pick up Amelia Kwan, and it bellows for a moment. Tyler, it seems like you might want to add in here. Is there something you want to do?
Well, I'm sorry. I was kind of reading through things.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
That value point that was effective, that was put into that roll, it's not spent. It's just a modifier. Exactly. Am I reading that right? Is that what y'all did? I'm not looking at what y'all did, but
No, that's a great question. I'm just trying to make sure.
Because on 83, how backstory modifiers work. Whenever a backstory modifier applies to the current, that's a backstory modifier. I'm sorry.
Right. That's a whole category of modifiers, I believe. No, lessons. Yes, backstory modifiers. It's on row 19 underneath the conflict, interaction, protection, overpower on the Super PCs tab.
Okay, and we're doing, this is off of value.
Yes.
And that is a point that is spent. Is that right? Never applies to the action. Target number is reduced by 1 for each applicable value. Value cannot be used to increase. All values that do apply must be used to reduce the target number, but they don't seem to be
Doesn't
spent.
But then when a bond motivates your response, says one bond, okay, only one bond can apply after the bold. They can increase or reduce the target number of their action by one. Only one bond can apply at a time unless the player spends one value point to apply an additional one. So that's where you can
That's where you spend. Okay. So they're used or they modify, but they can be used if you're wanting to do something extra with them.
Right.
Gotcha.
So they have a default impact on target numbers and can be spent
To use bond stuff.
to do other stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Neat.
Okay. Cool. So you have picked up Amelia Kwan at this point, and it is floating and for a moment, but then Amelia Kwan or Imla Kwan, sorry, I'm mispronouncing. Imla Kwan starts trying to fiddle with the shoulder piece that has some kind of mechanical piece on its carapace. And I'm curious, Refuse, as you see what's going on, it looks like it might be trying to get away from its current entrapment. Do you wish to do anything about that?
I do. I want to try and close the distance and pull that contraption off Quan.
Wonderful. You're definitely using a power since you're up on a railing and it's floating. It sounds like a conflict, but let me set the target number for you. Base target number of 6. I feel that it has a good solid hold. It's closer, it's far away for you, which is one of your things that can cause complications. So I'll say that the base target number goes up to a 7.
Okay.
With one complication.
So I'm trying to hit a 7. And I have to roll my D12.
Got to roll your overpower. It sounds like a conflict, so you're going to add in your conflict dice and roll both of them and add them together.
Okay.
Your conflict's a D10, so you're rolling a D10 and a D12.
And the adjusting, that's so I could reduce the target number, but I can't increase. It's the bonds that can increase or decrease.
Yeah, we don't have any bonds, although it might be smart for us to have thrown those in, but I think that's the thing where we'll deal with it when your characters build bonds. Let's look at your values before we hit dice, though. Can't stand back when I could help feels like it's applying right now. Right? Yeah. Doesn't feel like analysis paralysis or what you're rebelling against is yet applicable.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a 0, so not getting any. So it's just going to be straight rolling of those 2 dice, D10 and D12.
Hold on, let me check in for a second. Sabine, Tyler. So if you've got a value that has no value points in it, does that mean it doesn't affect your die roll?
No, it won't.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the target number.
So then if you have a value of 2, does it affect the target number by 2?
Let me check that again.
Yeah, that's the part where I got a little confused. It felt like
I think it would, yeah. I mean, that's the point of having values in there. I don't know if you don't actually spend these
target
value
numbers
points.
reduced.
Well, we have all of those spin things we can't do with them, like reduce what we roll by 5, and we have things depended on.
Is that after the roll?
That's after the roll.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So the target number is reduced by 1 for each applicable value.
Each applicable value. That implies then it's not the points in it, it's the value being used.
Yeah.
So then let me circle back then. Does that mean that if you have a value that has 0 points in it, it still affects the roll?
It would, because you
Yeah.
still have that value. You just
Yeah.
haven't built up things that are the nebulous points of having
Okay.
worked with them.
So then
And
we
it-
just
it
check our
is
3
being used.
values. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
Alice.
and it is being used. The I can't stand back when I could help.
Yep. So your target number is a 7 now.
Isn't it 6 now? Because it was 7.
You're
Oh,
right.
it's
It
8.
is a 6 now. It was 7.
Okay.
I declared 1 complication
Mm.
that it was because you're too far
Yep.
away.
So I'm roll and
You're
we
rolling a
count this as
D10 and a
conflict,
D12
fine.
with a target number of 6.
So D10 and D12, and I will just
If you just want to add the D10 and D12 and then roll it, that's usually been our process.
Yeah. That's a little bit higher. So then we
Rolled an
get-
11.
I did roll an 11.
Okay,
So-
let's take a look here.
And it was a target number of
6.
6.
You rolled an 11. So then you are
Still in
within
the
the
1.
range
Yeah.
of
Not
1
too
havoc.
bad.
Not too bad. And it is effective. So that is the second step removed. And now we're up to 2 havoc. As we're talking through the result of this, do you want to spend any of the havoc that's going here?
Let's. Is this person a goon or a villain in this situation? Even if they are
In this
just
situation, I would
Oh.
declare him a villain.
yeah.
It a villain. Sorry.
And would you say, just to be clear, the cause someone to lose something, a villain, is that to my detriment that they've lost, or just
No,
to
no,
their
no.
detriment?
You can't use that. That is
Yeah, the
that
villain
is
uses it.
havoc spending that only the villain
okay.
can use.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I don't even
Maybe
have
I
to think
should
about
like color code this differently or something to make it.
Mm.
that. Okay. Well, I'll
Sorry,
cause
now I see why you're
collateral
asking.
damage. Let's just use that. Let's spend it now.
Okay. Sounds
I obviously
causing collateral damage.
Mhm.
That
obviously
will
I wasn't
spend.
near enough for the precise control. So
What does
other
that
metal
look
nearby?
like?
I mean, what are they next to? Like,
Right now they're in the air, but what are they next to is a great question. I think that they ran forward from Upper Falls Court. They're near the little river.
oh, like there's like a little river with inside this biodome thing. It's an artificial river. I bet there's piping in there. I think some of the piping just gets like bent along with in the direction of where I pull the thing away. All this piping just gets curled up.
Nice.
Yeah, out over the river.
And do you think that you like? Have you moved from the Overlook? I guess is the next question.
Yes, I like dropped
You
down.
flew
off it.
closer, or dropped down.
I just dropped down. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think
Nice.
I can fly unless I'm like literally flinging myself or pulling myself towards something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, of course. Sorry, had a Magneto moment in my head, but it
I
totally
need metal
get it.
shoes.
You need metal shoes. Totally. All right. Then I think what happens is you rip away with the power over magnetism. You rip away whatever its control device that it was trying to grab, and I'm Laquan roars angrily at you, and
Yeah, not so powerful without whatever the fuck this is.
and it's you ripped it away. It evidently was not implanted into it.
Hmm.
So when you ripped it away, it's not like bleeding. It
Yeah.
just has lost access to whatever bioorganic thing that you have. It does have a metallic structure to it,
Yeah.
which is why you
I think it like flies to my hand because like the nearer it gets to me, the easier it is to control
Exactly.
its movement. So I can just like
kind of pops and it fizzes a little bit.
yeah.
And that is cool. the anemone turns to you, Taiki, and says, "You're performing extremely well. I don't feel scared, but I'm going to continue to pretend to be scared."
That's a good idea. And I'll make it so you're even harder to hurt. So I'm going to think the way this is going to work out is what's the name of our goon or our villain?
I'm Laquan.
Laquan. I wish Laquan could see you.
That's cool. It feels like that could be a protection, right?
I think so. I believe so. And it is what we're trying to use here anyway.
Okay.
I have to roll an overpower as well.
You do. So let me see. Are there any complications here? Applicable complication can hinder the character in this action. Well, I do think there's a good bit of wind whipping around, but I think I'm just going to see how this goes if I don't say that that's necessarily a complication, because really what you're trying to do is do a wish around its site. So I'm going to keep it at the base target number of 6. I'm mostly just seeing how the numbers work out if I'm not constantly pushing that number up. Gotcha. Let's see. Do any values apply?
I don't really think so. Not at this point.
Control emotions, dissociation, exclusion. I feel like the psychological is close, but I agree with you. So we keep with the target number of 6.
Right. Which means I'm rolling 2 D12.
Yes, you are. You are very good at protection. And by very good, I mean super complicated.
There. All right. $18.
Okay. Things have just gotten interesting.
Yes.
Target number was 6. You have rolled. Oh man, you just barely overdid it. But unfortunately, you did overdo it. So the roll is greater than the target number, yielding 3 or more havoc. The action is ineffective and spirals out of control.
I think now I am going to spend my value point of with great power comes great responsibility.
Nice.
0 and dropping it to a 13.
That's cool. Okay, so then we're back. Target number didn't change. You're now to a 13, so that is no longer ineffective. You've dropped that result to a 13, therefore it is effective, but you generated 2 havoc. So now we're to 3 total havoc. You have effectively made her invisible. That means that the steps, that is the 3rd step, we're down to only 9 steps remaining. These are going to be some long fights, friends. And
well, once we learn it, I think it'll be fairly smooth.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So you have 3, before we move to the next point, you have 3 havoc. Would you like to do something about the 3?
I would. I'm going to create a group complication to burn all 3.
Ooh, a group complication to burn all 3. Create a group complication. This is interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna look up group complications. I think I have an idea of what a group
roll
complication.
a d6 to determine how many characters in the scene are affected by a group complication of their creation. And the question is it's singular, so I guess it's a 1.
Sorry, I'm reading the how complications
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
In the event of a group complication, more than one character takes on the complication. At the GM's discretion, it may require all students of the group complication to remove it together. Okay, so that's removing it. Is there anything more about it? I think so. Here's what I was thinking. The group complication is an enemy is invisible to all of you. Simple. Group complication is that. And if you remember when we were talking about this, so it's a serious complication or group complication that affects multiple characters. That's now in effect.
You need to roll to see if it affects all of us, though.
Okay.
Because theoretically, it could be one or two of us on a D6.
All right. Affects everybody.
Okay. And yeah, I think it sounds like it's a 1, but it's ongoing, and we all have it. Because for one havoc, you could make a complication that would only apply to a person. And it's complication of their choice or whatever. But that seems singular.
All right. There we go. Now I've tried to. Oh, it's a little bigger. Boop. All right. Hopefully this will make it a little clearer what you guys can do versus what the Violons can do. Sweet. Now, I don't want to get stuck in the masks thing where I have you guys constantly doing things and the villain doesn't react. So now I'm Laquan is going to do a thing because you've got 9 more steps to go. So it obviously has stuff it can do.
I mean, rules wise, you have to go now because we can't start over unless every other player has acted and you're another player.
There we go. Awesome. So I'm Laquan is going to. Oh, it doesn't see. Oh, it's coming after you, yes, refuse, because you have its control device. So what we see is, even though it's still suspended in the hurricanes, it opens one of its huge, like 4-fingered claw things, and you see these like tendrils shoot out, and the tendrils come towards you, refuse, to like wrap around, and then it's going to pull itself towards you. Now I need to determine how I am rolling dice. Do I need to stat up all of my characters?
I think probably.
Fuck. All right. Hold on. I've got some creating villains. There's a cheat sheet on page 155 of the PDF. This thing has a far-reaching power. And they are city-based. So I've got a D10 and a D8 coming to do their thing. So I'm going to get a D10 and a D8, and then I'll roll them. I should base target number. And I don't see any complications affecting it. I should have asked these questions before. Sorry, I got all.
There is the for it should be the complication that is common wins.
That is a really good point. Definitely think that complication absolutely applies and is trying to work past that. So then the base target number goes up by 1 from that complication. Are there any other complications that apply? Okay, so a 7. I'm Laquan has rolled a. Dang, I keep always going left. I'm Laquan rolled a 16. The difficulty is 7. A 16 means that it is effective and causes havoc. I'm Laquan is happy to spin some havoc, and it's going to give you a complication. Refuse. So I think what that looks like is it wraps the tendrils around you. Oh, stop sharing. Wraps tendrils around you. They're these weird, they almost look a little bit like the sea anemone, except they're this yellow, stringy, kind of rubber bandy things. And it wraps around you and it pulls itself forward out of the hurricane.
1 second, Bill.
Yes.
You rolled a 13, right?
I rolled a 16.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, if it were 13, that would be a 1 havoc, right? No, it'd still be a 2.
That had me confused, but yeah.
Okay. So it's drawn itself to you, Refuse. You're now wrapped, but not, the complication is that you're wrapped up in its tendril stuff, and it's reaching and grabs away because it was successful, right? So boom, it causes the havoc of giving you a complication, which is all tied up. Is there an initiative system in this, or do we just keep going in rounds?
We just keep going around. The
Okay.
thing is that everybody has to act.
Before you can
Before you-
recycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess we can rejig the order based on what we.
Yeah, it might be a popcorn system. I didn't look enough to see.
I don't think there is a very clear explanation of the system itself, but popcorn initiative sounds good.
Yeah, otherwise it gets really awkward, I think. So do you want to react to that, Refuse?
Or does somebody have time to react to it while it's happening?
Well, if it's popcorn, then Rich is deciding who's going next, and it would be.
Oh,
Rich
yeah,
said
you're
you.
right. That's right. So I'm going to say that, Refuse, you're going to be a victim for a little bit, and I will choose Taiki.
Oh, okay. I was looking to see what harm was in this. Okay, so for me,
Is there harm?
Yeah, there's harm.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it
I'll be clear
complications?
that
Is it
the,
narrative? What is it?
Uh,
It's that's what I'm trying to read through, and I haven't discovered yet how you get harm.
I think by taking a appropriate
Oh.
complication.
There
Probably.
is harm. Yeah, there are 3
Mhm.
harm boxes. Yes, thank you.
Mhm. Become harmed is to havoc. So.
Oh, I could have
guess
hurt you.
Yep.
Neat.
Mhm.
you
But
did.
instead, I wrapped
you're
you up.
training
But
us.
you would have earned a value point if I'd said you got harmed.
Yeah. This is our teacher, not a.
Yeah, I'm Laquan isn't
Yes.
trying to hurt you per se.
Sorry, every time I hear it, I just hear it as I'm Laquan.
Me too.
I decided it would be cool to look up something
Sorry.
in Arabic. So it's an Arabic word, and you're right, it is odd. I may switch it around.
Okay, I'm going to. Okay. So he's run up and reached out and grabbed Refuse and hauled himself to Refuse. Is that right?
Correct. It did basically stretchy stuff out of the claws, drew itself to Refuse, and now is standing right in front of Refuse and has Refuse captured, like bound.
Okay.
Wait, gadget back.
All right.
And see an enemy has disappeared from.
Correct. Where's the sea anemone?
Mhm. I think I'm going to leap up and run towards Refuse. And as I go, I think we see this sort of blue light streaming out from me as I go, I wish you'd let him go, and kind of dive down with my hands onto where he's being grabbed, where Refuse is being grabbed.
Oh, that is cool. Okay. So base target number of 6. I don't feel like the complication with the anemone affects you here.
Okay. Wind probably still would.
Yeah, I think the wind still would. So that's a complication that will push your base target number up to a 7.
Okay.
Let's look and see if any of the values apply.
This might be more of a I have a trouble controlling my emotions. Rather than defending what I'm supposed to be defending, I have run off to help my friend.
Yes.
That is not the lesson we're being taught. We're being taught to defend a something.
Right. And you're going to defend your friend. That's great.
Right. So
that will push it down to a 6.
To a 6. Do you think this feels like conflict or protection?
Conflict are when 2 or more characters are in direct confrontation. Protection is when a character wants to defend themselves, someone else, or something. Yeah, even by the technical definition, either could be the thing. I think that because you're having trouble controlling your emotions because you want to protect refuse, it feels like that might be the commanding piece there. So I go with protection.
Okay. So
you're rolling 2d12 against the target number of 6. Oh goodness.
Yes. Once again, I'm very, very overpowered. I got a 19. That's
I just realized that in the visual die roller, there's now an indicator over the D10 and the D8 dice so that you don't get confused, because I used to get confused because they both look relatively similar. That is awesome. And I'm very happy for that upgrade. I just now noticed. Okay. This is interesting. Let's walk through it. The target number was a 6 because your value applied. You rolled a 19. Do you wish to spend any values here?
No, but I think I wish to fail.
Nice. I love it. We can see all the stuff. All the stuff. This is cool. Okay. You can choose to fail instead and gain +1 value point. Now, again, this is us just testing it out, so the value point wouldn't actually be awarded. But if you choose to fail,
I mean, awarded in the sense like I spent one already, so
we'll
go back to
we'll go back to the defaults.
Finish when we
Yeah, and if at the end you're like, I'd rather have points X or Y, then you just reassign it based off of I've seen how this goes. So there you go. Okay, so when you choose to fail, does that just mean I can give you a complication? I want to say it does, but I want to make sure.
Let's make sure.
Roll dice.
Fail. The choose to fail an automatic threat result is ineffective. Negates all havoc that would be there. Grants a value point. However, the super gates complication chosen by the GM.
Yeah, a complication.
Which, keep in mind, can be harm.
Right. And I may go harm, but I don't think the teacher wants to do that to you. Laquan doesn't want to hurt you. But okay, here's where my head's at. Tell me if we can work it into the narrative. I think Taiki's emotional outburst and abandoning her post to go help refuse and then failing to do so could result in a complication of embarrassment.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's the
I catch what I've done and
yeah. But you ineffectively do it. So
right.
Do we think that you I don't want to do the like you trip and fall. That's weak. I don't like that at all.
Well, it could be along the lines of him saying a cutting remark to me, and we see the effect it's had on me.
Oh, interesting. So you wished something. I wish you would let
him go. But rather than going into a mind control, I went into a empowering me to knock his grip loose.
Got it. So rather than making it, so you come forward, and I think you hit the grip. Yeah, I could spin it a complication to say that it would wrap you up instead.
mean,
That's true. That's another option.
And also, would it count as a failure if they let Refuse go, but
Kinda
just
like
like
that.
through?
Yeah, it just like
flung
moves out of the
very-
way
yeah.
and Taiki bowls you over. Your wish is granted. I like that. Very
No, just like flung. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll let him go. You said the words.
Well,
Flings
again,
them,
it's not mind control.
multiple-
right.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't make him let you go. I made me into a thing that would cause
Okay,
that to
yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But that would be a success. It's not a failure
Yeah.
if
If you let
refuse.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that.
I
That's
mean,
just
Ineffective.
Yeah.
and in our training, I think we're probably going to have some sort of system of harm. Otherwise, it's not. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
danger room harm.
I'm Laquan is eventually going to hurt. Yeah, like there will people get hurt.
Right.
With this,
But he
at
could
some
have
point.
just dodged to the side and I completely lay out, or he could have
Let's do
said,
that.
"Have you forgotten something?" and motioned back towards where I'm supposed to be, and I'm all embarrassed or whatever.
Could have run into a errant wind hose that is still circling around Laquan and be pushed aside into something you don't want to be pushed into.
Right. Yeah. They're all, yeah.
Okay, so I got to choose one of these. We are near the overlook, between the overlook and the river. And I think what I'm Laquan does is you come barreling forward and I'm Laquan sidesteps to send you sprawling. It's a little embarrassing. The complication is that you overdid it and you embarrass yourself in front of the person you were trying to save / impress. It's popcorn, so you, Tyler, get to choose who goes next.
All right. Then I think we'll go with Dorothy.
Okay.
Oh, you were
You muted
and then
yourself,
you
so
muted
we-
Oh,
yourself
I
just to
muted
speak.
myself. Oh my God, our protectee vanished. I muted myself. This is horrible. No, this is great. Actually, our protectee vanished. That doesn't seem to be. I don't know if this is something this Laquan person did. What to do now? We need to. Well, he has refused now, right? That
Correct.
that don't want that to be a thing. How do I fix this? Oh, I know, I have a perfect idea, because I mean, refuse uses electromagnetic energy, right? And if I create a cloud near her, then we will have a lightning storm that will probably shock her out of Amla Kwan's hands. And since she uses lightning, she should be immune to it, I think.
This logic all seems specious but delightful. I'm here for it.
Yes.
How is it
It is,
species to say that she is probably immune to lightning if she constantly exhibits electricity? And I mean, I
I
don't
think it's
want,
magnetism, not electricity, but it's fine.
she's constantly having little bzzz going
It's
around
true.
her.
It's true. That is
And
all.
it's
Let's find out.
electromagnetism.
Yeah,
The
let's
dice
find
will
out.
tell us.
Let's find out how this works. Yes, okay. Cool. So I think this is still protecting, right?
Yeah.
Or no, this is probably not protecting if I'm striking.
You're using me as ammo.
Yes.
Or
It's
fuel
probably
source
conflict.
or
Okay, so
something.
this is conflict,
battery.
maybe. Fine. Yes.
We're at 9 steps. So
Yeah.
let's see how this
Cool.
goes.
Mhm. Well, what's my target number?
Your target number is a base target number of 6.
Okay.
I am looking at, are there complications that
There's
fit?
complication of
I'm
refuse
like
being
going
in
to
the
be
middle.
of this.
I think refuse is a complication here, so I'll apply that. That makes your base target number a 7. Do we have any values that apply here from you, Dorothy? Everyone deserves to be happy.
Everyone deserves a chance to be happy. Well, that doesn't go for Amla Kwan clearly, so it doesn't apply. Toxic positivity. I mean,
I've got a great plan. This can't go wrong.
Yes, but I think maybe I
Better
have to
do
be a good.
something than.
I don't think so, actually, because even I have to be a good person does not precisely apply, because if I were a good person, I would load myself up with electricity and kind of hug that person. Really, that might yet happen.
Cool.
So,
okay. All right. Well, then
um,
we are still looking at a 7. You are
rolling
in
2d12s.
conflict and overpower. So 2d12s. Yeah, just like you said.
Wow, I've rolled a 15.
A 15. All right. Let's walk through it with a base target number of 6.
7.
7. Sorry. Thank you. You are in the successful. So now we're to an 8 with 2 havoc.
Ooh, I want to spend some havoc. It's in the turn sequence, right? 2 havoc.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure is.
yeah. You know what? I think what I'm doing is exactly what I said. I will turn some of the lightning into myself and then just run up at them and grab them, because that is a better idea. And but it harms me because I'm not all that immune to lightning, and maybe the electromagnetism from refuse kind of added some little bit that I'm not immune to. Ow! This stung. Ow! Ow!
Oh man, that's cool.
Ow!
That's cool. So you conjure up some electricity. So now you have wind and hurricane powers and also power over electricity.
No, I don't have power over. I created a cloud,
Okay.
right? And the cloud, the cloud threw out the electricity, mostly at refuse because she's barking all the time.
It's because the storm
And-
powers.
but-
Okay,
but-
gotcha. I see.
Yeah, and I hit myself with it a little. So
There's definitely
And
a
then this-
wait. What? No, don't. From
but it
refuses.
was successful. So
Yeah.
you're out
Yeah.
of the script.
And you spent
Yeah.
both of the havoc immediately in the aftermath to
Mhm.
take
Yeah.
1 harm.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
So
Yeah.
you get hurt. And I think that this was an effective action. So Laquan does let go of you, Refuse, because it gets electrocuted and those bands. Maybe there's a little bit of knock-on effects to Refuse, but not one to take a harm or complication, just cosmetic comic book.
Oh yeah. There's you know
Your hair
that was
standing
there's
up.
only a limited amount of teenage revel.
I think I
Hamster
will.
t-shirts.
I will give the popcorn initiative to you, Rich, so that Alex at Refuse gets to go last.
Oh, very smart. If Refuse is around. Wah, wah, ah. Like a thing, right? All right. So I think what Laquan is going to do is it chuckles because Dorothy and Refuse are like right here, as well as Taiki. Like you're all around it. It chuckles and it's just going to kind of linebacker run towards the pond because it's drawn you guys out. Yeah, I agree. So this will just say we'll finish this round and then we'll call it at that, if that's okay with everybody. So its plan is to make it to the pond, hoping that it can sense the enemy with something, because you said invisible, right? So
Can't see it.
right, can't see it, but Laquan has dealt with that kind of stuff before, we would assume. So it is going to thwart and use its power. So then it will be rolling again the D10 and the D8. Let's talk about the target number. Target number will be a base 6. Do we have any complications? The complication of not being able to see it is 1. Are there any other complications?
I don't know if you think the wind is complicating him being able to run over there and do it.
I never.
It was electrocuted just right now.
Okay,
Well,
it's been electrocuted.
I suppose because the question was the wind used as a complication to him? If so, he hasn't dispelled it yet, so it's a complication.
Correct.
That
He
was
hasn't
done with
bought
an
off
action.
that. Okay, so then it's been electrocuted, and the wind is still holding it back. Although that
I don't
wind
know if the
affecting over and over.
electrocution was used as a complication. It was used as an effect to free.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, so then wind, yes. Electrocution, no. We are now up to a 8.
Mhm.
And I'm rolling a D10 and a D8. Here we go. Wow, another 13. But probably different results for the 13. Let's take a quick look.
Yeah, because it's only off of or it's off a higher level.
Yep. So it's an 8 target number, and a 13 would be effective with a havoc of 1.
Nice.
Its goal. Oh, did I even define what the action is? Oh, it's thwart. That's good. That's right. I don't have to get super refined with what I'm doing. I just need to be annoying and in your way. That's kind of cool. So then it has 1 havoc. What am I going to spend my 1 havoc on? Cause someone to lose something. As it splashes into the water, you hear the anemone scream frightfully, and Laquan attempts to grab hold of and does the rubber bandy kind of anemone tentacle-y stuff coming out of its claw. Refuse, you have the last action here for our trying to game out thing. What would you like to do?
I'm running towards the river, doing my best Thor Ragnarok, little bits of lightning off me, and I'm going to
Nice.
try and
Do we hear
wrap
do we hear
those,
like a Led Zeppelin song in the background?
there's there's Led Zeppelin going, and I'm going to try and wrap those pipes that I pulled out of the river. They're all curled up. I want to just wrap them around Laquan.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is now I feel like maybe there we go, player characters. I feel like I might be I feel like I'm actually rebelling. I feel like this is now like I want to defeat the teacher. Like my competitive side is maybe kicking in.
Cool. Okay. I think complication wise, do we have a complication on you?
I'm no longer tentacled.
Yep, you're no longer tentacled. And I think situationally I wonder if I was actually technically able to add those complications early on, or if a complication can only be bought with the havoc. Interesting.
Well, if it
It says you can narratively.
Okay, cool.
Then
So
I could be kind of my powers could be a little erratic from being zapped. But
yeah, that feels right. So we'll say that you're
stronger and weaker, and in erratic ways.
Base of 7. Oh, but you're also running into some water too.
Yeah.
So we'll call that 1. So your base target number is a 7. Do you have any values that apply here?
I was getting a bit competitive and rebelling against the teacher.
That's right.
So
we're back down to a 6.
Yeah. I think I'm conflict because I'm.
Yes, that absolutely feels
or
right.
my interaction.
You're directly affecting someone.
Okay, so that is conflict. Yeah. Okay, so a D10 and a D12.
Oh, interesting though. You can use interaction rolls to remove complications. Interesting.
Yeah. And we can use action points, and like there's the group one, we'd all have to somehow overcome the complication to get rid of it.
Right. Okay.
D10, D12. 13.
13. All right. Our base target number was a 6. And you've rolled a 13. I'm actually getting quicker at this.
2.
Yeah, it looks like a havoc of 2 and effective.
Yeah.
So let's talk it out. You got a havoc of
What'd
2.
you roll again, Alex?
13.
13.
And our target was 7?
6.
6. Okay.
Right, because it was 7 from a complication and 6 from the value.
And I was kind of looking in there to go, oh, would 5 get him
If
exactly?
with 5 get you
off?
so,
But it's
yeah.
like, no.
I was too. That's why I was like, oh, I know where Tyler's thinking. But sadly, no. If it were an 8.
An 8.
So if I take a 2 Havoc one, that uses it all up.
Yes, because there is 2 Havoc you just earned or built.
I momentarily lose my powers
Ooh.
after tying up the teacher in metal bar.
Think you
I
fridged
have the
yourself in the
teacher.
water or
Like-
something?
Ooh.
Or
I mean,
are you
I've-
just using so much to hold this?
I think it's because I got zapped by lightning. Because some people should be a bit more, not zap their other fellow students. I
Ah,
mean,
Cool.
next.
one of the radical ideas that reviews has.
And
That
then
would, go ahead.
since we're talking mechanics, that would get us to the end of the second full round, and you would be at 7 steps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we will
Should
break
we be
here.
at 8? No, wait, you didn't.
That was
use a step.
effective. That last thing was
Oh,
effective.
okay.
So it took it from 8 to
Oh.
7. I
Mhm.
think that is a good
Alright.
point, though. I think what I'm
Mhm.
going to start doing is
Mhm.
having a steps countdown clock
Mhm.
on here.
Yeah. If we do, I would love to discuss a bit of what we've done. If I
Yeah,
know
if
Sabine, you're
people
wanting to hit.
want to go, because I know somebody may be ready to go, then totally cool. But I would love to chat a little bit about it.
Yeah,
Chatting
I'm-
for 15 minutes.
I really should go.
Okay.
And I need to eat, but I would like to give my impression. So the
Yes.
fight was fun. Yeah, works. That's nice. But I think the steps were too long. Like doing this for 2 more basically rounds or more, and with Jen being there, even more steps being added. So
And that was the first training. It gets even longer if you
Yeah.
did 2 training sequences in the
Yeah.
same act.
Yeah. Yeah.
This could take a half of a session.
Yeah.
yeah.
And adding a little bit more time spent on role playing,
Mhm.
little
Yeah.
moments in there. It would.
Yeah, the question is where it wants to focus. And I'm trying not. I don't want to keep you here, Sabine,
Mhm.
by extending conversation in here. But the question is it about the doing super stuff, or is it about the things outside of the doing super stuff? How much of it do we want affecting each? How much of a session do we want taken up by each thing?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like the rules for an action are all for doing a supery thing. There don't seem to be, or if you are doing a non-supery thing, that's just like having an interaction with them, talking to somebody.
There are spotlight scenes. They have rules of
Yeah.
their
Right,
own.
right.
They do.
Okay.
They do.
This whole set
They do.
for other
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, but we did a conflict
We
scene.
did.
But
Oh yeah.
but the so the thing is, we had done an interaction scene. We still would have had to beat the steps.
Yes.
And yeah, I think this would eventually kind of drag.
I agree. I feel like
Especially
if we
this
if
was
we-
just a training sequence, right? Not even real conflict. I mean, it was nice to have it, but if we had ended where we are now, that would have been fine.
exactly. I think
For like-
2 rounds of this was
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
And I wonder if instead of 2d6, we just did 1d6.
Mhm.
Would that be enough? Like if we just cut all the dice, we just cut it in half. And it says D8, we roll a D4. And it says 2d6, we roll 1d6.
I mean, I have an extended discussion to talk.
Okay.
The
I-
question is, how long do you feel like
Sorry.
talking?
I will leave you now. I'm curious to hear what you're thinking, Tyler, though,
Mhm.
and we might need to continue this at a later point. I won't be there next
Mhm.
week.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Neither will Rich, so
That's right. There's
yeah.
no, that's
No
right.
game next time.
no game next week. So,
No game next week.
but yeah, see y'all in 2 weeks.
Bye,
Then.
one.
In 2
Bye.
weeks.
But
Cool. Do you guys want to stick around and keep talking?
yeah, I'm cool. It's like 15
Talk
more
a bit,
minutes.
yeah.
Do we want to stay recording? Just drop off recording? What do you want to do? All right. So you had some further thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah. First off, I think we need in the character keeper a spot to hold on to complications as they're running around.
Yeah.
Because we have individual complications and group complications. There needs to be kind of a running spot for complications as we get them and buy them off.
I'm going to think about where the best placement of that is,
Mhm.
rather than just throwing it in there right now. But I completely agree with you. I wonder if it makes sense in the character sheet part or in the turn sequence part too. I'm going to think about it.
Or maybe having a spot that is current scene and have its own tab where we have a scene active. These are things we posted. Blah, 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 blah. This is what we're looking for. These are our goals. Have each of us with a spot. These are complications coming up. We can keep up with an idea of what the complications are. Because where I was saying, because I've been playing multiverse, Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Right.
And that is a game that is very much about the action of being a superhero. Most of the game is about doing super fights and super stuffs. The role playing is taken more as an as written. This I do like that it's wanting role play, but with it we're dealing with a bunch of bonuses, boosts and negatives, and so having a running total of how those are going is important. It reminds you to buy them off. It keeps us. It will speed up the rounds because then we'll be able to just look down and go, okay, I know this one's here. I'll argue maybe this one doesn't apply. Off we go.
One last thing before. What if we add that in as like little text thingies? Because it's right here in the die roller.
That sounds marvelous.
Okay, cool. So we'll try it that way. And if we end up sticking it near the values and stuff like that later, then that's not hard to do.
Yeah. My only worry would be it's starting to clutter up dice since we'll have them individually. But that's neither here nor there. I think for a starter, that's a grand idea. For how much it's taking steps. There's a variable role, which I always think, I'm not sure what I think of that. What was it, 2d6? So
2d6 plus. Yeah, like
right,
there's
lots of pluses. And you roll fairly low, apparently. We were at what, 12?
12, yeah.
I do agree that things could get a little, well, they could definitely lag with all those steps, because you want to do other things besides just go after what the goal is. Because you want to take off complications and you want to, interact with stuff, and those aren't always going to drop or get a step. The idea of maybe 1d6, not such a bad idea. Just
or do
to
a change to some dice that would have a little less swing. 2d4 or
I think it kind of fits with the game of, and we're going with a GM game. How about situationally? And it goes where we change die types.
Or maybe we just say that a conflict is number of people involved plus static number.
Well, that would make every one of them the same, which, isn't a particularly bad thing, but you may envision a really big fight, and we decide, okay, this is going to be a long one. Or we have a thing where we've got to go in and speak to a bartender and get some information. That may not deserve to be 13. And I think a play with the dice where you go, okay, I as GM want this to be the big fight. We have the add-ons. I'm going to say it's a D12. Could be that you get him, he's got him on a bad day, or it could be long and involved. But going to speak to that bartender, I'm going to say that, honestly, that's a D4 variable or a D2, I'm not going to add on too much of the things here and there. As long as we know what the goal set is to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally, you want to have enough that every player gets an opportunity to do something. And I think that's why the players are added on to the thing. So we know that at least every one of you is going to get to go.
Ooh, by the way, kind of tangential to this. When the GM's turn, is it that counted as like the GM's going to do one roll for whatever they want to move around in the scene, or whoever, or is it like,
I think so.
yeah, and can it be like,
I think if I have
the
multiple
goal of the
villains in a
group could
scene,
be
they
one
can
roll?
each do their thing.
of your, like if you have 5 goons and a villain, can you do like one roll that is basically the combined efforts of all of them?
Yeah,
Or would you be
I definitely want to
have
keep
to wait
it
till next round before you can?
fast. That's a great question. I'll try to see if I can figure out how the book wants me to go, but I of course want to do the fewer rolls that I can.
Because it'd be weird if you were like had to like to make it actually function. I don't want to have a crowd of goons.
Right. I almost at one point had an instinct of I'm Laquan is the distraction and someone else was going to sneak in and grab an enemy as an application.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll keep it focused and also
Yeah,
it was good. It was time to end it. Yeah, I think only the number of steps was the only part of this that where it felt laborious.
Yeah, I thought the actual kind of choosing, an action and the role and stuff. I like. I mean, I like the little table of havoc.
I like the table of havoc. I like that. I agree with Tyler's assertion that as we get better at this, it'll go faster.
It wasn't. I didn't feel it was too slow, even now. Like we've already discussed. If we had to go for 20 more steps, it would be like,
you were a 7. You had moved off 5 of the steps.
Exactly.
We were less than halfway done.
Yeah.
And what we were looking at, what were we adding to the die roll this time? 3 characters. Are you as well, wasn't it? So it was
no, it wasn't me. It was 3. It was 3 characters.
And
so it's 2d6 plus
3. And no other modifiers.
I'm checking right now.
Okay.
It's in the scenes, and the battle scenes is 1d6 step roll plus 1d6 steps for every previous battle. No, we did training. You're right. Training.
Oh, sequence. They each have different ones.
Yeah, they each have different costs. It is all training scenes start with 1 step per super, plus a 2d6 step roll, plus 2 steps for every additional training sequence in the same act.
So theoretically, we could have had a 15.
Could have.
Yeah.
I rolled pretty high.
Which means had we purely concentrated on it, it's a 5-round battle.
Yeah.
That, one would think it should not be purely done straightforward. There should be complications that are starting to build up to where it's weird and we have to have somebody that's taking care of complications. There's diversity in the round.
It count, yeah. And the lowest count would be, yeah.
Also, there are some benefits for building up to 5 havoc points. That's where you could create a manifestation of your own character's power. That's a thing you want, or some value of want. So some players would definitely be like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to have this weird null field always going, or that's part of me being overpowered, and I think it's interesting.
It says all havoc must be spent before the end of the turn.
Yeah,
so you'd have to do like really big roll.
That's true, and I don't think I enforced that early on, but then we got into a groove of spending the havoc right away.
I mean, it seems like to get to the 5, you'd have to get the difficulty down to.
Well, you have to have
4.
Someone who doesn't spend havoc. You roll, you get more havoc. It would be the havoc building up in the round.
Yeah, I guess when it says turn, maybe it means
Oh, or does it
Everyone
say
Well,
goes?
everyone's done, so yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. There, you might be right because there are rounds as compared to turns. Turn
Yeah,
sequence.
what's the... It doesn't carry over to the next.
Full rotation of players completing their turn is known as a round. So it would be, you got to use it on your turn. So how do you get 5? How big
Yeah,
you
no,
got to go to
it's-
get 5 havoc?
No, so it seems like it's if one player, some people don't spend the havoc, then another player near the end of the round can spend.
That's what we did, but I don't know if that's right.
Isn't that what it says?
Well, let's take a look because
Okay. All havoc must be spent before the end of the turn.
but
There
what's
we
a
go.
turn?
Turn. Before
Oh,
the end of
yeah,
the turn.
which not round. Oh, what's the thing say? It says from here past the turn to the next play.
So yeah, it is individually counted, and
Yeah, so
that
you need to
makes
get
it
difficulty
very hard.
down. Yeah, you have to get difficulty down to a 4
And roll gangbusters.
and yeah, roll really high to get the chance. I mean, that kind of makes sense because it's there's all the big things. You have to apply all these things to lower the target number and roll really high as well.
Yeah.
Which I think would you'd be getting more of those modifiers as you play.
Because
So
you're picking up
you
more
would be-
values.
Yeah, and you'd be increasing the
Well,
Your
not
values are always
values.
applying, so
yeah,
Yeah, you don't
and so it would you're starting the story, causing bits of havoc, but as the story goes on, things are going to get real.
yeah, you can't get 5 havoc unless you're rolling something with a target number of 4 or less.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I find it quite strange that there is one target level that goes up to 4, and then the next one goes to 5 and 6. There's not like one that's, but then you get the last,
Mhm.
the lowest. And it's like, goes all
I
the way
think
up to
that's
12.
odd too.
So I mean, it's kind of
I think it has to
exponential
do with a
increase
multiple
rather.
of the target number itself.
It's 3, 3, 4, 4, 6, 8, 12. Yeah. Really. So yeah, you have to do it on your turn to get those level 5 havocs.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think a tracker for havoc doesn't make sense, but a tracker for steps absolutely makes sense. And then complications as notes is a good way for us to represent that information in the same place, a shared area.
For a GM, if you have characters on your turn, when somebody, it's all wishy-washy is their initiative set. It's a when you want to do something, you can do something, but you can only have a roll once per round. But for the GM, you can choose to have your guy go once in a round where it would make a roll. We could have, again, theoretically, we could all say, oh, well, hang on a minute. I'd like to run over here at least, but I'm not making a roll, sort of things. But then if you got, say, 2 villains up there, each of them would take an action somewhere in here whenever you choose to take the action.
But those would also count to successful actions for the steps.
I think steps are only what we do, supers do, because they're not trying to get rid of the goal. They're trying to succeed and stop us from getting our goal. But if you say have goons go as a collective. So, and by the end of the turn, if we've all gone, you have to do all of your people before we can move on.
Yep, there are villains, extras, and goons.
Okay.
I don't know if extras have to do much or make an action roll.
They have extra hyphen goons, so I think they're one and the same. I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Oh, they do have values, so you can, if the value applies, they can start playing with their target number. Interesting. I've got a lot of work to do.
I think this is. I'll say I think this is cool.
I think
I
it's
think
interesting.
super games are hard to do. And I think this one's an interesting concept. Because I've played a lot of supers games, and they vary from wide spreads, depending on what you're wanting to do. Conceptually, I think this is neat. I like that it really wants to have role play in it.
Mhm.
It's just, it's doing there's solid mechanic. This is a very mechanized system, but I don't immediately dislike that. When you have interaction seeds, you have a mechanism to have them go off. That's pretty mechanized, but I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either. I think. Well, I know. I really want to get a round of this, like get through it. Don't know if we can get through all 3 acts in the space of 4 full sessions.
Though it does seem like the a lot of the other scenes don't have that super high step count. They're much lower step counts. So like, a flashback, 1 step per scene point.
That's nice.
And things like all the other scenes, it's only the those combat ones that are
super long. And it's a training sequence, so I think there was some thought put into that.
Yeah. And like the GM spotlight scenes, the biggest one is the Rivals, which is a 1d6.
Okay, that's kind of neat.
Nearly all the others are all like, 2 steps plus 1 for additional scene point, or 1 step per scene point, or
So it's meant to be either training is an opportunity with low stakes to go and play with your powers and deal with your people and learn together. Battles, higher stakes. Both of those are a bit more of an epic moment. We're choosing to have something that's meant to be a whole issue.
Yeah, because the first battle is actually not that much. It's 1d6 plus a step for each.
Right,
super.
A straight out battle sequence
battles
is a d6 step roll plus more if you've had previous battles.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just escalate how dealing, and I'm guessing
an extra 1d6 for every edition of previous battle scene.
And I'm wondering if that's battle versus same villain, like you have a problem you're dealing with, you battle them multiple times, and then, or is it the idea that as we get more going along, our battles end up being longer
battles keep escalating.
The end of each act, the supers work together to deal with the story central plot. These are battle scenes, usually taking place in the game world outside Pandora Academy itself.
Cool. I feel like I'm done. Like that was good. That was a good long session. Thank you guys for agreeing to just just play through it for a little bit. That helped me more than spending a good bit of time today just staring at the book and rereading certain sequences.
Function with that way either.
I'm terrible at running games that way.
I just twiddle with the things in play.
Well, this is fun. Thank you guys both. I'm gonna stop the recording here.
All right.